sexy. I'm sorry if I'm like screaming at the camera or it's really loud in this video. I'm filming in my backyard because it's actually kind of nice out today. Today I'm going to be doing a story time. I often film story times in this location, so it's also kind of carrying on that tradition. And it's been a little bit since my last one, so today's story time is going to be about, sorry it's really loud, the time that I failed my driver's test. And I haven't told this to that many people, only like my close friends know. So I decided I would tell it to the whole internet because why not? It's kind of embarrassing. It's really like a stupid story, but who knows, maybe it'll be relatable. So, you know, if you just failed your driving test, you're not the only person out there who has. I have too. So let's begin with some context. I got my learner's permit in June 2016, so it's been almost 2 years since I got it, and then I just kept pushing off the test. And I first scheduled to take the test in August 2017, but then I ended up like missing a bunch of the forms, so then I rescheduled for October 2017, and I made sure to get all the forms this time. One that I was missing in August was the verification of enrollment, so I made sure to go like ahead of time at school and get this. But okay, my school's really annoying, so it's normal for them to make you like file it maybe 24 or 48 hours in advance. So I filed it like 3 days in advance to be safe, and then they said they would make sure to get it to you by then. So it had been like 2 days since I filed it, and I needed it on the third day, so I just went and checked, and they were like, we'll have it to you in no time, we'll make sure we deliver it to you tomorrow morning. So it was the next morning, didn't get delivered, so then I went and talked to them at lunch, and they said, oh, we'll have it done by the end of lunch, don't worry. And then I sat there like throughout my lunch, and they still didn't give it to me, and then eventually I had to go back to class, and they're like, okay, so sorry about the wait, we'll make sure we get it for you by the end of the school day. So I went back to class, and I thought they would just bring it to me by the end of the school day. The school day ended, they still didn't bring it to me, and my test was like immediately after school went out, so like I had to rush to the DPS from school, and they were like making me late because I didn't have it. So I went and talked to them, and I was like, I really need to leave right now, do you have my verification of enrollment? And they're like, oh yeah, we'll make it soon. Okay, I was getting kind of frustrated at this point, but I had nothing else to do, so I just had to sit and wait. And the lady eventually called me in and was like, okay, yeah, what's your name again? I'll make it for you. And then she's like making it, and then one of the vice principals popped in and was like, hey, can you run this for me? And then she like dropped what she was doing with me and did whatever he asked, and then he was like, oh wait, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut in line. But that lady just kept doing it anyways, and I ended up being like 20 minutes late. It was already off to a rough start. I hadn't driven it all that day. I was gonna drive at least to the DPS with my mom, but because we were so late, she just had to drive to save time. But you know, I got all the forms. I was just gonna brush it off, it's okay, it's all good. So then I get to the DPS, I apologize for being late, and they're okay with it. Like, I had the last appointment of the day too, so I was really cutting it close, but they're like, okay, it's fine. What I had to do was sit down with someone, and they would go through all of the forms and make sure I had everything and was ready to take my test. So they were like, okay, do you have your affidavit? Gave them my affidavit. Do you have your certificate of completion? Had that. And then they're like, okay, do you have your VOE? After all that trouble, I knew I had my VOE, so I handed them the VOE, and they're like looking it up and down, and then the lady tells me, honey, this isn't a VOE, you need a VOE. And then she showed me what the verification of enrollment actually looked like. It was an official form, but I didn't know that. I just filled out what the school gave me. So she's like, okay, what they gave you is a verification of attendance, but it doesn't follow our official form, so you need to go back and get the actual verification of enrollment. And at that point, I was like, are you serious? Are you kidding me? I waited all this time. They couldn't even print out the right thing. Like, I was very frustrated. And then I was like, okay, so what can I do? Do I have time to run back to school? And they're like, okay, yeah, if you can make it back by 4:30, we'll let you take your test today. And I was like, thank you so much. And then at that point, I had to drive back with my mom to school and get a new verification of enrollment. So as you can tell at this point, I was very stressed out. So I get back to school, and I rush back into the office, and I'm like, sorry, this wasn't a VOE, so could you guys please make sure you get me a VOE with this form? Okay, I could do it, I could get back in time. I was only like 10 minutes from the DPS. So got my VOE, ran back to meet my mom in the car, and then we started driving back over to the DPS, and then I was looking through all of the forms and everything, and I realized somehow, like, I was missing my learner's permit, like the little card, and you need that to take your test. So I was freaking out, and I was like, I just had it a second ago, where did it go? And then I thought, oh wait, maybe I left it at school when I was running in to get the real VOE. So we drive all the way back to school. I'm scanning, like running around the front of the building, and then right in the front I see my learner's permit, I had just dropped it somehow, like running to the car to school, like somewhere in between there. It had just slipped out of my pocket. So I find it, and then at this point that's added like maybe 10 minutes of extra time, and it's like 4:25, so I'm really stressing. Oh man, I don't know if we're gonna make it, and my mom just drives really fast to get to the DPS in time, and I sprint in, I kid you not. I ran to meet the woman who was helping me before. I gave her my VOE, and she's like, okay, you have everything, go ahead and get your car, pull around, and get ready to take the test. So I was relieved that I could take the test, but at this point I'm a little nervous. I wouldn't say I have a fear of driving, but it makes me really anxious, and then especially this day, this was my first time driving that day, so I had no practice before, and I was a little panicky, especially after like the nightmare that was happening earlier that day, but I was trying to just like calm myself down. So got in the car, drove around, and I was in first lane, and then I see my test instructor come out. So my instructor is a like middle-aged blonde lady with glasses, and she has her hair like, it's really weird, I don't know why it's like tied into a bow, but it's not a bow, it's like her hair is shaped like a bow on the top of her head. So she like makes me check all the stuff, like the horn, the turn lights, and I don't know why I was so nervous. She's like, okay, honk the horn, and then I start turning on the windshield wipers. I was just like not thinking straight at that point. Also, once she got in the car, another person got in the back seat. She's like, okay, don't worry about it. The person behind me is not judging you. She's just watching me. She's trained to become one of those test instructors. So it made me a little more nervous having two people in the car, but I was like, okay, she's not judging me back there. I'll just try and pretend she's not there. Just focus on the person next to me instead. So the first thing we do is parallel parking, and this is what I was the most nervous about, but I had done some practicing. I felt pretty comfortable with parallel parking, so I do that. The parallel parking was fine. I only got points off because I forgot to signal. Once again, I was really nervous. I was forgetting everything. And then we go out onto the actual course, and I'm driving, doing turns, signaling. I'm like, okay, I think this is going all right. And I drive through a neighborhood, and then at the end of the neighborhood, there's like an area where, I'm trying to describe this properly, where a neighborhood road meets like an access road. I don't know if that's the right word. And there's a stop sign there, so you have to know the right time to like turn right onto the road. So I go out a little bit. I'm sitting there waiting until it's my turn to go, because you don't want to go like when there's a car right there and you get hit, possible collision, all that sort of stuff. So I take a good amount of time waiting to do my right turn, and once it's like pretty clear, I go ahead and turn. It was a really long road. Like the only car that I could see was a truck that was so far away. Like it was totally safe. I had driven that same road with my mom before, and I made a really safe turn, but I don't know why, all of a sudden when I made that turn, the lady's like gasping, and she's like, floor it, floor it, floor it, and the lady in the back is screaming, floor it too, and they were so dramatic. Let me tell you, both their hands were firmly like on the little grips ahead, and they were like holding their breath and screaming at me to floor it, floor it, floor it, and I'm like in my head thinking, what? The car is so far behind me, like I could go like 5 miles an hour and they wouldn't catch up, especially when there's like a stoplight. But I do what they say and floor it, and at that point I'm pretty sure I failed, but I don't know, I'm trying to like make the best of what I have left. So after the whole floor it incident, which is what I'll refer to it as, my confidence was kind of shook. Like I don't know, I just felt like it wasn't going very well. I thought that I did everything else but that okay, but I was like, oh wait, if she interfered, does that mean I fail? So I was trying to do the best on the rest that I could. I had like a 4-way stop. I did a lane change, and then eventually we drove back to the DPS. And when I drove back in, I was still like shaking. I was so like nervous and stressed out throughout this whole thing. And I was like, okay, that was one little mistake, which I honestly don't even think was that much of a mistake. Is she still gonna pass me? I really don't want to have to go through this again. I don't want to have to go through this nightmare with the forms and everything. Please, please, please pass me. And I'm like praying and praying in my mind and just hoping that she would pull through. And then I drive to a stop, put the car in park, and then I look at her, and then she looks at me, and then she's like writing, finalizing notes on her clipboard, and then she tells me, okay, well, I'm sorry to tell you, but you are not gonna pass for today. And then she explains to me like why I didn't pass, and I was so heartbroken and so sad. I hated taking this test. I did not want to do it again. I knew that I was like a good enough driver to be on the road, but here she was failing me, and then she was just going through showing me like everything I did wrong. I don't know why she had the audacity to just like not even fill out the form. Like she circled bad on everything. I don't know if it exactly says bad, I forgot, but it's like bad, fair, and good. and she like went down and circled bad, 0 for every category, and I'm like, okay, so maybe I made a few mistakes, but you know I did not like fail every single category. It seemed like halfway through the test or something, she just stopped caring about filling out the form, so I didn't even get that good of a feedback. So she like basically failed me on not everything, but she was like saying, you need to fix this, you need to fix this, your turns were sharp. She seemed to have been so stressed out driving with me, because she like pulled my mom aside after and she was like, okay, you need to make sure you go over this with her, this with her, this with her. And after that, I was pretty crushed. I was like, wow, who fails their driving test? Am I that bad of a driver? I felt so bad, especially having to tell people. Pro tip, if you're going to take your driving road test, don't tell people ahead of time, because then if you fail or do badly, you're not going to want to have to tell them after. So just don't tell them until you pass it. So yeah, after that, I felt so bad. I like didn't even want to drive for a long time. I scheduled another appointment in like December. I took this in October, I don't know if I mentioned that, and then I ended up like not wanting to do it, so then I canceled it and moved it to January, and then I didn't want to do it then, so I like moved it to February, and then I didn't feel like doing it then, so I canceled it and retook it again in March, which is when I just now took it. And this time when I took it, I got a 98 on it. Like, I did so much better, and it was insane. Like, my parking job, like, not gonna brag, but the lady was like, wow, that's marvelous, that was like some amazing parking. And this time I was like so much more practiced, so much more prepared, and I was just like, how did I fail this the first time? This was so easy. But you know, it's a learning experience, it's a story time, and yeah, I am a very safe driver now. I still think I was before, and I just had a hard instructor. You never know who you're gonna get, and I think this lady was just a little over dramatic. I'm sure I made some mistakes. I'm not a perfect driver by any means, but I think it's a little hard to believe that someone would go from like failing everything to getting like an almost perfect score in a matter of months. I don't know, I don't want to sound too like self-entitled or like I'm dissing her so much, but I just thought she overreacted a little, but it was still a fun story and an interesting experience nonetheless. So yeah, that is actually it for this story. I failed the first time, but then I ended up passing with a 98 the second time. It seems like such a normal thing for most people, but let me tell you, like when I got back on that second time and she told me I had passed, I was so happy. I like couldn't believe it. I was like, wait, really? I passed? Let me know if you have any stories similar to this, or just like DPS nightmares. It might be called the DMV where you are. I think it is in California, or something else, but I live in Texas and it's the DPS. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this story. Let me know what you thought of it. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more story times. And that is actually all I have for you today. Hopefully I will see you next week. I've just been like slacking with school and videos and everything. It's like senioritis has affected every aspect of my life. But yeah, that's gonna be it. Bye guys.